Hello, my name is Tibor Clement, and in this video I want to show you some possibilities of doing data analysis from surveys you have done, for instance, among your visitors or non-visitors in your city. We will do this by starting with some general recommendations about data evaluation and data analysis. The very first recommendation is that when you're doing your analysis, do your analysis not restrict onto basic counts just by looking at frequencies of distribution of answers among different questions. It is always very recommendable to work with different statistical tools, like, for instance, use simple means of centrality, like the arithmetic mean, or develop tables by combining two variables with one another. Or you can also go into further statistic options, such as working with, for instance, correlation methods of a different kind. Doing tables is a very easy thing. Everybody can do this, and you do not need any statistical background. Because of this, in this little video, we'll concentrate on the interpretation and construction of tables in doing data analysis. When you create a table, you always have columns and rows. There are different opportunities to present the data within a table. You can do this by creating percentages. These percentages may be column percentages, row percentages, or total percentages of the whole table. The recommendation here is always select column percentages and stick to this kind of presenting your results. The next question is, which variables should I choose for columns and which for the rows? There are different possibilities, of course. In general, it is advisable to put the variables into the columns that you may assume as an independent variable, and put the dependent variable into the rows. For instance, you are looking at two variables at the same time, which is, for instance, the relationship between age and number of visits. So age certainly is the independent variable that may influence the number of visits. For instance, that many cases, the older the visitors are, the more often they pay a visit to a cultural offer. So put age into the head of the table, make column percentages, and put number of visits into the row percentages. We'll later take a look at this. Also, when doing tables, look at your respondent base. That means look how many respondents you have. When you're combining two variables with one another, it may happen that your cases are decreasing because not all respondents have answered every two questions. So take a close look before how many respondents you have in your table, and if you are below 80, which is the minimum, you shouldn't do tables. Okay. So now we're going into some examples for data analysis, and we'll use the visitor survey we conducted within our Erasmus project at the CU Sound Film Festival in Turin in 2023. This survey was conducted in February, and we collected more than 120 interviews with visitors of this festival. So this is the background of our database. Now we'll go and we'll address two areas of interest. The one is audience structure and visiting behavior. This is an area of interest that is important in every visitor study. We always want to know, for instance, what are the important demographics of our audience. We also want to know what is the share of first-time and recurrent visitors on the festival, and what is the ratio between these two subgroups, and also what are the differences between those groups. And third, we want to know how satisfied our visitors are. This addresses also the questions, how many visitors will come back next time, and associated with this, what are possible hurdles that prevent visitors from coming back next time? So we'll look now at some tables we have created for this. Here we have analysis of the age, of educational qualification, and of place of residence of our audience of this film festival. What we see here is, first we have age, and age is differentiated into three different groups, age groups. And here we can see that, for instance, the younger people between 20 and 35 are the biggest amount of visitors. Then there are 36 to 50, only 21%, and then 51 up to 70, it's 34%. So the youngers are 45, biggest share. There were no younger visitors and there were no older visitors among the audience. So what we can see here is that the audience is rather young, which is not very surprising because the audience that visits cinemas, that goes to the movies, typically is younger than average of the population. Here we have also the educational qualification, and here we can see more than 80% have a university degree, 90% only high school, and there was no one with a degree from primary school. So far we can say our audience is rather young, and it's very well educated. Third, we asked people where they come from, because we wanted to know how many people are coming from Torino, how many people are coming from abroad, from outside the city, how many people are tourists. So 81% are coming from Torino, and the other visitors, to a small extent, come from outside the city. But very largely, we can describe our audience here by saying young, well-educated, and basically from Torino. So this is a very simple analysis just by looking at the distribution of frequencies among different subgroups we have. We also, as I mentioned, want to know what is the share between first-time visitors and regular visitors who have been here, have been to the festival before. And here we can see that there is a share of 44.8 first-time visitors and 55.2 that have been before. So it's almost half to half. Valid percent means in this case we have some cases that are not counted in our analysis here. This is so-called system missing. These are people who did not answer the question, but they are, however, among our respondents. So we have this proportion of 45 to 55. And then the question is, what is a good proportion? Every cultural offer, every cultural institution needs a stable basis of regular visitors. Regular visitors are very loyal to the institution. They are accepting prices. They do not cause so much marketing costs. And well, they're the basis of every offer. An ideal proportion, of course, this depends on the cultural offer, and there are many factors that have to be taken into account, but a good proportion would be 1/3 first-time visitors and 2/3 regular visitors. Here we have only a little more than a half visitors, regular visitors. So in this case here, the binding power of the festival is not so high. Here it would be good to have between 65 and 70 regular visitors and around 1/3 first-time visitors. Of course, we need the first-time visitors because we have to fresh the audience. We always have to be new visitors. Also, we want to grow. We want to have bigger audience from one year to the other. So we need, of course, first-time visitors also. But here, this signals that binding power is not so great in this film festival. When you see a result like this, then it is interesting to go into more detail. Then, for instance, by finding out what is the composition of these two different groups. Are first-time visitors different from regular visitors? What is special about regular visitors? So here it comes to create tables. Table as I mentioned before, is done by columns and rows. If we look at the table above, which combines first time or repeated visits with age, we have here in the header columns the age, 3 different age groups, and here we have first time or regular visitors. So what we see here is then among the people between 20 and 35, what is the share of first time, what's the share of regular visitors? These two figures always add up to 100%. So every column, values in every column add up to 100%. So here what we can see here is that the biggest share of first-time visitors are among the younger visitors. Between 20 and 35, the share is around 55%, whereas between 36 and 50, this share is significantly lower, and also it's a little lower among the older visitors. So here we have the age, which we assume as an independent variable that influences the visiting behavior. But in this case, it makes sense to change the view. Namely, we want to understand whether first-time visitors are different from regular visitors or not. For doing so, we then change the variables. Here we put kind of visit in the header column and age groups into the row column. And here we see more clearly that first-time visitors are basically young. 51% are between 20 and 35. The next age group here, it's only 15%, 36 to 50. And here, the oldest group is roughly about 1/3. So first-time visitors basically consist of younger people. Now we have the regular visitors, and here we see that the picture is a little bit different. Regular visitors, the share of people between 20 and 35 is only 39%. Here it's about 27, and the oldest ones is about 1/3. So what we can conclude from this, we may say that to some extent the binding power among the younger audience in terms of how many people were here before, among the younger audience is less than the others. Here you see the share of first-time visitors is bigger than the share of among the regular visitors. So hypothesis then here could be that binding power for younger visitors is not so big. This may have something to do with the selection of the music, the selection of the audience, or whatever. So here you can see that you have to go a little deeper into your analysis. Another way of presenting the results is, instead of making a table, is counting or calculating mean values. This here is done by calculating the arithmetic means for the two different groups. And here we can say first-time visitors are by average 38.4 years old, and the regular visitors are a little older, 42.4 years. So again, here we see a difference, but here the insights that are given are not so good as in the table, because here in the table you see much more clearly that is especially the younger group of people that comes less often to the festival. Okay, now we are going and trying to understand whether and how far first-time visitors are different from regular visitors. Here we have educational qualification, and we have the two columns here. Every column adds up again to 100%, and here we see that education is not so much the point. There's no big difference between first-time and regular visitors. So we may find then other criteria that are more important, and what we see here is then we're looking for the difference between female and male visitors. And here it is very interesting to see that first-time visitors are 52.1% female, and we have a little less male visitors, 47.9%, but it's different among the regular visitors. Here we can see that female visitors are much more often are regular visitors than male. So here, conclusion is then, for what reason ever, female visitors are much more loyal to the film festival than male visitors. Maybe this has something to do with the selection of movies, or with the price, or with the service, or with the music, or whatever. These are subjects you have to find out. But you can see at any rate here, women are much more loyal than men. So, what we can conclude from this, if we take gender into account and if we take age into account, we can say that the less loyal visitors are especially men and younger people. And the loyal visitors are to a larger extent female and older. So these are the kind of insight you can draw from this very simple analysis. So let's go a little deeper into this question. What are the factors influencing regular visits to the film festival? Here we have another analysis. We have, again, first-time visitors and regular visitors. And on the column variables and row variables, R is the satisfaction with the visit. And we measured satisfaction with the visit by applying the net performance indicator. You find a lot of information about this question about in the video about designing questionnaires and surveys. So what we can see here is that among the regular visitors, the share of fans is around 78%. Neutrals or critics are less to be found here. First-time visitors, fans, there is a little more than every second visitor a fan, only 56%. Neutrals are 36% and critics 8%. So we can say that first-time visitors are less satisfied than regular visitors. Of course, this is not surprising because the regular visitors know the festival, they know the movies, they know what they can expect. So this is not so much the case with the new visitors, the first-time visitors. But however, to have a binding effect on the first-time visitors, the share of fans should be bigger in this group. Satisfaction should be higher. We can see this also when looking at another important question. This question was, how likely is it that you come back to the festival next year? Here we have the distribution of the answers for this question. Here, very likely, 67.5% say so. Rather likely is only 26.3 and not likely 6.8. So here we have the valid percent again. Here are excluded missing answers in the survey, which you can see here. So a little more than 2/3 of the visitors say they would like to come back. Now again we go into the differentiation between first-time and regular visitors. So then, when we look at first-time visitors, how likely is it that first-time visitors come back? Here, 24.1% say this is very likely. Among the regular visitors, it's almost double, 44%. Rather likely, first-time visitors 14%, regular visitors only 11%. So it's very likely that the regular visitors come back, they are loyal, they come back next time. And the binding power of the festival among the first-time visitors is not so high. Only 1 out of 4 first-time visitors say they will come back. So this is not enough to create a stable basis for regular visitors. Also here, that less than a half of the regular visitors say they will come back is also a little kind of a problem. So binding power here is a problem. Next area of interest we want to go into is media communication and ticketing. Beyond the audience description and beyond audience behavior and audience satisfaction, it's always very important to know whether the media you employ for your media campaign are efficient and in how far the ratio between efficiency, success, and the money you have to invest to use this channel is in a good relationship. So we'll address this question in our next example. We'll address the question how you can measure what is the reach of the campaign. We will answer the question which media function well, which media are cost effective, which not. And we'll address the question, when would you start the campaign and ticket sales? So you have a film festival that happens at a certain time in the year. So what is the best time to start the campaign? You also can answer these questions by looking at the data from your visitor survey. What you see here first is we ask for our visitors for the sources of awareness. Here you see on the right side the part from the questionnaire that covered this question. Question was, how did you become aware of this festival this year? There we have personal recommendation, this website, festival newsletter, social media channels, newspaper magazines, online magazines, others. And here we have the answers. Personal recommendation, we have this website, newsletter, media, newspaper, and magazine. And if we look at the answers here, we can see that personal recommendation, 42% of the audience had this as a source of awareness for the festival. 42% is a very large value, and this is also a very usual value because any social activity you can think of, personal recommendation, personal tips from friends, colleagues, from the family are always most important. So here we have this also, 42% of the visitors had a personal recommendation. Then other sources of awareness are this website. Only 15% of the visitors used this website, which is not very much. We have this newsletter that was maintained before and during the festival. Only 5% of the visitors use this. Then we have social media, Facebook, Instagram account, 29% of the visitors, and newspaper magazines, only 12%. So here you can already see that the reach the different media channels have among the audience is very different, very different. So best is personal recommendation, second best social media, after that newspapers, magazine, and also the website, and the newsletter does not work very well. Now you can go a second step. You want to know how cost effective the different channels are. And for doing this, I will show you kind of calculation you can do with these figures. If we look at the right side of the slide, we have some important information. We assume that this film festival had 10,000 visitors in total. This means when we have here a share of 5% that say they read, saw, noticed the newsletter, it's in total only 500 persons. So what we can do then is we can try to find out how cost effective it is. For this, we take the money that is needed for using the media channel. In this case, we say 2,000 euro, that were the costs for the newsletters, and only 500 people saw it. We divide the costs by the people and multiply it by 1,000, and what we then have is the 1,000 user price, which is the costs that are needed to reach 1,000 people by this channel. If we do this here, we have 2,000 euro for the newsletter. We have 500 people that saw the newsletter. We multiply this by 1,000, so we have a 1,000 user price of 4,000 euro. Obviously, this newsletter seems to be very expensive. On the other hand, here we have, for instance, this website. The Swiss website costs around 3,000 euro. We had 15%, which means 1,500 visitors that used the website. We divide this and multiply this by 1,000. So here we have a price of 2,000 for 1,000 visitors. And we can do this also with all other channels, for instance, with social media, also with the newspapers. If you do not like this 1,000er price, you can renounce on multiplying by 1,000, and then you have the price that you have to pay to reach one user, one person, by the respective channel. For instance, you have to pay 4 euro per visitor for this newsletter. 4 euro. You only have to pay 2 euro and 8 cents for reaching a visitor by newspapers. You have to pay 2 euros for reaching a visitor by the website. So here, then you can decide which channels are cost effective and which are not. So, of course, it is good to switch the money to those channels which are very cost effective. For instance, to social media or to the website, or invest more into those channels. So now we go to the next slide and want to assess the reach of the media channels that were used in the campaign. What we see here then is we have the number of media channels that were used by the different visitors. For instance, 0 means the visitor was not reached by any media channel. 1 means the visitor was reached by one channel, 2 by 2 different media, 3 by 3 different media. So we looked at this for the different age groups. Here again we have age in the head of the table, and we can see that especially the older visitors are badly reached. 50% of the older didn't have any contact to the media campaign. 0 media. Why is this not such a big problem? Because among the older visitors, there are many regular visitors. So many of them already have the information that the festival may take place. The younger visitors were reached better. But however, again, 1/3 of the younger visitors and 1/3 of the middle-aged visitors were not reached by any media that was selected. Here we have an analysis, again, number of media channels that were used among first-time and regular visitors. What is important here to see, of course, the first-time visitors that do not know of the festival beforehand have a strong need to get in touch with information by the media. What we found out here is that 48% were not reached by any media. Almost every second first-time visitor wasn't reached by any media channel. This is certainly an indication that the range and the coverage of the media campaign among this group not very high. First-time visitors basically here came because of personal recommendations. They didn't see it in the media, or at least they did not remember it. Another question I mentioned is what is the best time to start the media campaign and to start the distribution of tickets? Here again, it's interesting to look at first-time visitors and regular visitors. We have here the question, when did you decide to visit this festival? And here we have today, yesterday, 2 until 7 days ago, 14 days and 6 weeks, 6 weeks and 3 months, longer than 3 months, or someone else decided for me. So here, what can you see? The regular visitor already plan their visit to the festival very much in advance. Almost 36% planned this more than 3 months ago. 18% 6 and 3 months, and others between 14 days and 6 weeks. So completely different is it when you look at the first-time visitors. Here we have 1/3 that decided between 14 days and 6 weeks, but also a large amount of people in the last 17 years, the last week, or even the day before. So first-time visitors are much more spontaneous than the regular visitors. So this is an insight, and you can learn from it. For instance, could be an idea to make discounts for first-time visitors, last-minute discounts, or something like that, to enlarge this group, to bring more first-time visitors into the festival. So, and finally, also concerning information and media campaign about the festival, we ask for different obstacles that make it difficult for the visitors to come. The most important obstacles we were asking are too little information and high ticket prices. Here we can see too little information. 28% valid percent. We don't want missing cases here. So we have 28 predominantly and 13% applies fully, say they have too little information. So this corresponds with the findings earlier that the media campaign did not reach very many people and was not so successful as it should be. So here again, it is reflected the need of the visitors to have more information. Also, high ticket price. Here we have predominantly 25% that say high ticket prices are a problem, and almost 6% say applies fully. So together we have 32% of visitors that have the opinion that ticket prices are too high. So this is a finding that should lead to also more deeper research into your data. For instance, the question is, what are these visitors that have problem with ticket prices? For instance, are these younger visitors? To some extent, this is certainly the case, but also other visitors, older visitors, especially those that go to the festival very often. They say, when I go very often to the festival, the ticket prices add up too much. So this was an example, very brief example I could give you how you could do very simple analysis and draw some empirical insight and conclusions from your survey data and work with this. Thank you.